Hi there. In this video, we are going to discuss the different hallmarks of the cancer. So, what are the different hallmarks? As we previously discussed, that hallmarks are basically a set of characteristics which cancer cells attain, which help them to grow continuously. So, what are these specific characteristics which different cancer cells attain? These characteristics include self-sufficiency in growth signals. It means that they no longer depend upon the growth signals for their growth. They become self-sufficient, or they become able to synthesize their own growth signals. So they become self-sufficient in growth signals. They become insensitive to the growth inhibitory signals. They no longer respond to the inhibitory signal. As a result, their growth continues. They alter their cellular metabolism to survive their own metabolic needs, and they evade the apoptosis. As we know that the cells which have a deranged genetic setup are subjected to the apoptosis. However, the cancer cell rearrange themselves in such a way that they avoid the process of apoptosis. They gain limitless replicative potential. We know that in a normal cell there is telomerase which get shortened with every division, and as it gets shortened, its replicative potential of the cell declines. However, the cancer cell make rearrangement in their telomerase as well and get limitless replicative potential. Moreover, they synthesize factors which lead to the sustained angiogenesis, or there is formation of new blood vessels which supply them the blood and nutrients for their survival. Moreover, they invade the surrounding tissue, and they show the process of metastasis and spread to the distant sites. Moreover, they also evade the response of immune system, and they prevent themselves from the cytotoxic T cell by regulating down regulating their expression of the MHC protein, or major histocompatibility complex proteins. Okay, so we begin with the first factor, which is self-sufficiency in growth signals. Okay, so how the normal cellular process works, a normal cellular growth process works. Imagine this is a cell here, and this is the nucleus, and in nucleus there is the genetic material, and here are the receptors, you can say growth receptor outside the on the plasma membrane. And a growth factor comes supposedly, this is the growth factor. It binds here, and its binding lead to the downward cascade of the signaling, and different signaling molecules are produced, and these signaling molecules go to the nucleus, and when they go to nucleus, they act as a transcription factor, and they lead to the translation of different proteins and different kind of messenger RNAs and so on, which synthesize different material for the cell cycle, including the different organelles and different proteins, and also initiate the replicative process of the DNA, and ultimately leads to the cellular division, in which this cell there is arrangement at the different poles of chromosome, and there is then cell division, and two daughter cells are produced. Okay, so in this way normal growth process works. So what are the different requirements here for the cell growth? There is a requirement of the growth signal. Okay, there is a requirement of signal receptor, and there is also requirement of a downward signaling pathway. So normal growth of cell requires a receptor, a growth signal or growth factor, and downward signaling pathway to promote the cellular growth. Tumor cell becomes self-sufficient in all these pathways in one way or other. For example, common growth factors are platelet-derived growth factor, or epidermal growth factor, or transforming growth factor, or TGF alpha. So what happens? Tumor mutates itself in such a way that it begins to synthesize this factor on its own. So when it begins to synthesize this factor on its own, these own or self-synthesized factors start stimulating this receptor, and then activate downward signaling pathway and lead to the cellular division. However, if it does not synthesize it on its own, it reacts with stroma in such a way that it stimulates the stroma to manufacture these growth factors, and in one way or other, either it begins to synthesize on its own, or it stimulates the stroma to synthesize these growth factors, which in turn stimulate the cancer cell and lead to its growth. Moreover, it also upregulates its receptors. Okay, for example, common classic example here is HER, HER2 new receptor here. This is the HER2 receptor, which is very common in the breast carcinoma. Okay, In breast carcinoma, this receptor is present in some types of breast carcinoma. This is amplified, and this is a growth factor receptor. Okay, so when it is amplified, it leads to the increased signaling and increased cellular growth, and therefore there are certain treatment therapies which target this receptor, and by blocking this receptor, these therapies don't regulate the growth of breast carcinoma. So it was about synthesizing growth factors and increasing growth receptors. The third way is increasing the signaling cascade or making it self-sufficient. Okay, so for that we will be discussing the RAS pathway, which is involved in the signaling commonly, and its mutation is common in different type of cancer, and we will be discussing this RAS pathway in the next lecture. Okay, thank you.